Hey there, thanks for watching JeeMoney. I'm here to give you bite-sized pieces of financial insight so that you can properly invest in your future. Now today, we're going to talk about how this turned into this. Let's go. Now before, we had already discussed why metals like gold and silver and bronze became a medium of exchange, or money. You know, men and women, when they see it, they get all like, my precious. Now metals were made into coins over time. And interestingly enough, at some point, some of these coins actually had holes in the middle. Now the reason they did this is that they could put a string or a rope through the middle and carry them so that they would not lose any coin. Now we know metals are heavy. You know, for example, a pound of gold is way heavier than a pound of feathers. What's that? It's not? Okay. Well, we know that a pound of gold is really, really heavy. What? Alright, my camera crew is telling me that I need to work out a lot more, which I find is a minor miracle because I don't have a camera crew. So, you know, metals are heavy to lug around, and, you know, they also get all clinky in your pocket. And another problem that you would have with having a large amount of coins is how do you keep this in your house without thieves breaking in and stealing them? You know, if you put it in your mattress, that would be uncomfortable to sleep in too. So in the beginning, blacksmiths were actually the ones who created safekeeping houses for these coins. Now the blacksmith, what they would offer is safekeeping of these coins and security. In return for the deposits, they got a note. Like this one. So you would keep this note, and at some later date, you could come back and redeem your deposit. Now over time, people started depositing their coins not at blacksmiths, but at banks. Now let's think of a real life scenario. Let's say there are two people, Bob and Jill. Now Bob wants to buy something from Jill, but he doesn't have any coins on hand, but he does have these certificates of deposits or notes that he could go to the bank and redeem his coins in order to buy something from Jill. But you know, us humans, we're a lazy lot. Like, I heard that 40% of kids today don't even like eating cereal because they have to wash the bowl afterwards. Now when you think about what Bob wants to do, Bob does not actually want to go to the bank. He wants to take his notes and give enough to Jill that correspond to how many coins he's buying his purchase for. And Jill would be totally fine with that because these notes are redeemable for the coins. So she knows there are coins in the bank for that, and the notes are enough. Now what Jill can do at some later time is she can actually go to the bank and redeem those coins, or she can use those notes to buy something else from someone else. And then that person would go and use the notes to buy something from someone else. And it's all backed by a deposit over at the bank. And this is how paper money became mainstream. So these banknotes were owned by the bank and eventually became regulated by the governments around the world. Now over the last 100 years, paper money is actually not even backed by gold or silver, but actually is backed by the promise of the government. The government says, yes, you can use this money, this paper, for purchase in goods across this country. Now we'll get into the whole gold standard argument at some later time, but for now we're just going to leave it here. Since we're on the subject, I want to do a quick preview about fractional reserve banking. We're not there yet, but since it's related to money supply and inflation, which is what we're going to talk about in the next few episodes, I want to hit upon it very, very briefly. So what they realized is that most of these people actually did not redeem their entire deposit within a year. Actually, they redeemed only a fraction of their deposit. So the bankers, what they decided they could do is make some money on the unredeemed deposits. So they would take this money, loan out in the way of notes, additional notes, but these are loan notes, to borrowers. And these borrowers would pay interest back, and then the bankers would share some of that interest with the depositors, so the depositors no longer had to pay for the safekeeping. So let me give you a quick example. Bob, he deposited 100 gold, and over the course of the year, he only needed about 20 gold at a time. So what the bank could do is say, hey, well, there's 80 gold from this guy sitting here, so why don't we go ahead and write a note on the 80 gold to someone else, and that person can borrow the gold and pay it back, maybe say pay back 85 gold after a year. So after a year, the bank would keep, let's say, maybe 2-3 gold, and Bob would have actually 81 or 82 gold. So he made a little bit of money on his deposit. And if the banks had not loaned out the other 80, only 20 would actually be used in the economy. The other 80 would be sitting there stagnant. And because the bank lent out the other 80, now there's 100 gold being used out in the economy. But think about this. There are notes for 180 gold out there. If Bob has notes for 100 gold, and the borrower has notes for 80 gold, so altogether that's 180 gold. And it's backed by 100 gold only. Later, we will talk about why this is important. But for now, see you soon.